there, this is Steve from Telford Ultimate Guide, and you've joined us for part 4 of Telford History by Bike. Well, as you can see, we're darting down the Silkin Way. We have just started just sort of north of Stirchley pools, so we're sort of heading south. This route is called the South Circular Telford route. So this will basically take in most of South Telford. So we're just going past on the right hand side, that's Stirchley and Dawley station. This was originally a line that linked up with Coalport. You can see above, this is the Stirchley Lane Bridge there. Beautiful example of a completely stone built bridge. Now as we travel down the Silkin Way, on the right hand side there's a nature reserve called Park Hill. A recently created nature reserve, I would say. The left hand side we've got the playing fields, which are just off Aqueduct Lane. So the bit we're coming into now originally used to be a railway tunnel. The Shropshire Canal also ran down this route, and the railway was actually built on the bed of the existing canal. The canal would have more than likely gone through this tunnel. Now we know there was a tunnel here because the cottages up the top are actually called tunnel cottages, but you can actually see the steep stone cutting as we ride through it. We've got another bridge here, and this is an example of an elaborate farmer's bridge, and this would have opened up land or given access to land at Park Hill. So we will just come out of the tunnel now. Even though it doesn't look like a tunnel now, I can assure you it was at some point. So now we're coming into the junction where the Shropshire Canal came up over the top of where Brookside is now, and there was a junction heading north and also a junction heading off to the Coalbrookdale part of the network. So the bridge we've got here coming up was actually when the A442 was diverted up Southall. This was the new bridge that was actually built here. Since this modern day pink edition concrete thing, I think, has just been built to protect the bridge. So we're going to cross over now what's called Chapel Lane. Chapel Lane Aqueduct was a small little community, had a little ironworks, nailworks there. But on the left hand side you can see the little St Paul's little chapel there. The left hand side was Aqueduct Road. Now this road originally was the trunk road from Kidderminster to Whitchurch, and a whole little community sort of grown up around that road. Now you can see the railway line now is actually coming up on quite an embankment now. And the road, you can see there's rows of cottages around there, which would have been originally miners' workings cottages. So we're going over the bridge now, which takes you into Willow Bank. Interesting now where the footpath sort of bends around to the left, but originally the original route of the railway went straight as an arrow straight the way across a bridge, and then it used to cross the power station line, the railway there, and that bridge has been knocked out since then. But we're coming round the corner now and we're still on the Silkin Way. You can see it's a decent paved path here. So we're coming up to the junction now where you can access Brookside. It's almost like the Silkin Way is like a motorway really. You can see Mount Pleasant Drive, the houses there, and that's the T-junction as well at the bottom of Aqueduct Road. So this subway we're going underneath now is the Queensway. That's the Eastern Primary, if to the unknown. And again, we're now crossing another one. We're crossing the power station line on this bridge here, which was casted at the Horse Aid Company. And we're coming down. Courtworks Foundry is on the left hand side, and we are going to take a right turning now, and you can see the Madeley Court Mill there, or the windmill. The bridge here coming up is where that railway came straight the way across down to Coalport. It's funny about the windmill because a lot of people say it's a bit of a funny place to put it, but you take all of this surrounding countryside, the pit mounds, everything away, then actually it's actually on a hill, a big hill itself. So actually a perfect place to actually build a windmill. So on the left hand side, just out of view there, we have got the pools, Madeley Court pools. They're two balancing reservoirs. They are doing a job of balancing a lot of the water up from Aqueduct and parts of Woodside. So we're actually on the what we call Rough Park Way now. And Rough Park Way is, yeah, it's kind of it was part of an equestrian route from the horse riding centre, which was at Rough Park. But along here, there are a lot of services along here, such as water mains and gas mains that run along these footpaths. It's funny when you look at these footpaths, you think that they're here, but actually on the left hand side, there's a huge area of manholes and stuff like there, because you can actually see where the actual water valves are. But they built these paths, which basically just carry services underneath them. So now we're coming up this sort of narrow bit. On the right hand side, we've got the power station line railway. On the left hand side, just out of view, is the new Madeley Court School, and that was actually built on the site of the original playing fields from the original school. So talking about reusing, I'm not sure whether that's a better location for it. I suppose it is. So we're coming up, we're on the Rough Park Way now. It's a hell of a muddy old track. They have been doing a lot of survey work here because a lot of the trees have got the ash dieback and they are earmarked for felling at a later date. So, but it's not a bad day, it's not too bad. So we're coming down and it's just a bit littered in holes and potholes full of water and mud and stuff like that, but you can see a large vehicle has been along here at some point and squished the mud up a little bit. So as we come around the corner now, you'll start to see the bridge, another subway, and that's on the Castlefields Way, that is, which is just the road that links up from the Eastern Primary up to Woodside and Madeley. We're still running alongside the railway, which also runs under a bridge right next door to this. But as we come out under the bridge, now this bridge has always got glass in, so on the floor, so I would be really careful when you come through here. I don't know if there's any in this time. Yeah, there is, you can see it. Now, as we come out from underneath the bridge now, you'll be able to see on the left-hand side the park. So the park, it was actually quite a big park. In the 80s, it had a really big slide, and I think a lot of the kids from Brookside, we used to travel a long way up the railway tracks just to go on that park. It had a pirate ship and everything. But I think now it's got, I don't think there's a park there now. You can see that there's a BMX track now. So we're coming through, we're still on Rough Park Way, and it's a shame I haven't seen any horses on here because it's quite a popular route with horse riders because it does take you all the way into Coalbrookdale. It's quite a nice route. But as you come on the right hand side now, you'll be able to see some of the paddock. There's a few paddocks around here of horses in there, and you know, I'm sure there's always kids feeding them and things like that. So you know, you can see now the path is absolutely waterlogged. So I think that needs kind of sorting out and those holes filling out. But still a great track really as we come up around. So we've got a left turning now, which will take us at this sort of crossroads here. So that will take us up to Woodside. The right is the Ironbridge Way, which takes us up into Aqueduct or Aqueduct pools there, and you have to cross the railway on a bit of a level crossing. So we're going to carry on straight up. Now, great example of the TDC planting here on the right hand side. You can see those trees are absolutely huge. So as we carry on up Rough Park Way, you can actually see this has actually been resurfaced, this part of the path, so it's actually in quite good condition. It'd be nice to see this carried on all the way to Madeley Court. I mean, it is a well-used path, but you can see the paddocks next to on the left-hand side there. quite nice to see, that is, and it's nice to see that that's been retained as well. So really pleased about that. So as you can see, it is quite a popular walking route, really, especially for dog walkers. As you can see, you're always worried about the dog. Look, though, I haven't been chased by a dog yet. So we're carrying on around now, and we take a sort of bend to the left, and that brings us on to Brickkiln Lane. Brickkiln Lane links up left, takes you up to Woodside and right into Woodside Centre. On the right hand side, that takes you up into Lightmoor and where the Lightmoor care home is. So this is a really old lane. This is really for Telford. So we're back on the Rough Part Way again now, and the path has taken a bit of a turn for the worst again. It's a little bit bumpy and hardcorey, but I like these hedges that run down here, these natural hedges, which are really nice. So this now sort of brings us on the left hand side. You'll start to see oilhouse coppice appear. That's a nice big wooded area just to the south of Rough Part Way. On the right hand side, we have a small brook running there, a small open water channel, which opens up up in Lightmoor itself. Also, alongside the path, we have the power station railway, which pretty much follows this path most of the way. So you can see here, we've got plenty of puddles and stuff like that. So it is very, very wet. But this brook that's at the side here, this basically joins into New Pool, which was one of many of the Derby furnaces pools that were around here back in the day during the Industrial Revolution. Couple of like weirs with where the water changes levels, because it does drop quite a bit to get to where the viaduct is itself. But as you can see, we're coming around this corner now, and there's one of those beautiful sort of weir structures on the right hand side in a minute. So if you're a cyclist, you'll know this piece of pathway. It gets very, very narrow, and you can see New Pool is coming into view on the right hand side. It never looks a very clean pool to me. So you've got School Road, which is on the left hand side, the old cottages and houses there, but actually this is the narrowest bit now. You have to be very, very careful not to snag your handlebars down here, but great path to ride. And I remember in the summer this was that overgrown, it was complete and utterly impassable. But it brings us quite nicely onto School Road, and we can officially say we have hit Coalbrookdale. So School Road is there, going up off to the left hand side, and look, it's just squeeze through these dogs. Look, there we go, lovely. And we've just got these lovely old chocolate box sort of cottages here. So this is the green, what we call the green at Coalbrookdale, School Road Green. And at Christmas they have a bit of a tree on it, and a little bit of a manger scene in the bus stop. You can see the community centre there, and the shop there, Hiscox shop, and the museum is sort of down in the dip to the right hand side. Look at that lovely row of cottages which are due to be renovated, and nice set of lights here. Let's just jump through those nice and quickly. Now this is a nice piece of road now where you can get a bit of speed up. You can easily get 35 miles an hour down here if you so wish to. But you can see now Glimweb Foundry on the right hand side. They've just started fencing that off now because that's been bought by a housing developer, and I just imagine that's going to be a very, very big demolition job, that is. I don't think people realise how much money goes into that, but at least they've still got their site at Ketley staying true. We don't know how long for, but you know. So we're now travelling almost down a gorge now, which if you think about it, you know, the Lyd Brook and the Lomo Brook would have cut this out originally, and it would have been a huge broad river. On the right, it's the sort of back entrance of Glinwebb now, and on the left you'll just about see the mill coming into view there. And funny enough, the mill was used by Telford Development Corporation architects to store a lot of their landscaping plans and stuff like that in. But you can see we're getting a bit of speed up now as we come down into Dale End. You can see those beautiful houses on the right hand side as we come down into Dale End, and you can see Bentall Edge now. Look at that Tarrant above right in front of us. Look, that is one big mound, that is. On the right coming up we will have the beautiful Coalbrookdale School. Look at it there, beautiful building that is, and I hope it continues on to be a school. But here we have the famous Dale End Cafe, been flooded out a few times over the years, and on the left hand side is Foundry Mews. That was a recent new development, and the Merrythorpe building in front there, which has been repurposed now into a co-op. So we're onto the wharfage now. Look, you can see, and there's been a lot of work going on here as well. You can see the road there to the left off up into up Lincoln Hill. But yeah, currently while we're going along here, they're doing water main works on the wharfage, so it's been closed off. Museum of the Gorge there, very good museum to take a look at. I don't normally ride on the pavement, but I don't think I've got much of a choice here, and be prepared because I'm actually going to scare these two now. There you go. Oh God, I only rung my bell. So we're coming along now. The lots of pubs and stuff like that along here. Interesting, when they were doing the water mains, you could actually see the different layers of what the road was built up of. This building coming up on the left hand side was the former Co-op Bakehouse. So originally it would have been a bakery. So coming along the wharfage, those trees are beautiful along here, don't you think? Lovely. And really, when you look at it and you get time to just have a look at the beautiful individual style houses along here, it is quite nice. It isn't very often you get to ride in the middle of the road, you know. But you can see where they've tarmac the middle of the road there. Not great really for this time of year, but having said that, work has got to be done, and you can start to see the scaffolding on the right hand side in a minute, and that was where the severe damage to the wall in the last floods were done, and that's still being rectified at the moment. And it's funny, while you're driving up this road or riding up here, you can actually feel the ruts of where the flood barriers would have been, and it's like quite a bit rough. So we're just coming up to the sort of head of the wharfage, the busiest bit, you know, and we're going to take a right turning now straight over the top of the Ironbridge itself, built by Abraham Darby. And look at the Tontine Hotel there. So we're coming up over the top now, and this is obviously completely pedestrianised, and it still looks great after its huge makeover that it had. You know, so ahead of us you can see Ladygrove, and that's the road up to Broseley. So on the right you can see the toll house. Now originally there was the toll house, and then just in front of us was the railway. So the Severn Valley Railway used to run right through this car park, and it's actually known as Station Road, and you can see the large building is called the Station Hotel. So it ran straight the way across here, and the Severn Valley Railway ran from Shrewsbury to Kidderminster. Unfortunately, while I did this ride, they're carrying out huge water main works, so a big part of this Severn Valley Way was actually closed off for access. But we will revisit with a ride along this section now. I do believe at the point of making this video that it was actually opened up, but we're just going to take a slightly different route. So we're actually going to go up along Ladywood and go that way around. You can see there's a bit of a climb here. So Ladywood is accessed via the Waterloo Street over the Jackfield Bridge and then up towards Broseley, and then you're turning off a right and that brings you along Ladywood, and that enables you to get to that car park. I mean, it's quite a big car park. That is one of the most popular car parks. But yeah, so we're riding along Ladywood at the moment. So you can actually see all of the double yellow lines along here. There's quite a lot. And also look at that DPD driver has got a puncher there. Somebody's not going to get their parcel today. So we've come into the junction now. Straight up takes you up to Broseley, and the left takes you back over the bridge at Jackfield. So we're just going to drop down here. Now the Severn Valley Railway actually runs in the dip below those railings. You are able to access the Severn Valley Way via a small footpath which is on the left hand side coming up. You can see that it's fenced off at the moment, but it runs underneath this bridge that we're going over now. Now you can see the other end of the gorge. Now you can see Madeley Wood right up on the hill there. It just shows how steep this gorge really is. So we are going to take a right turn in now, and that will take us into Jackfield. Now, as we turn the right, you'll be able to see the Jackfield Bridge there. And that Jackfield Bridge originally replaced a bridge that was there. One of the first concrete bridges to be built in the UK. It really was kind of hit and miss whether Jackfield would actually get this new bridge. Now Jackfield itself is quite a big area really. People don't realise how sort of large it is. It starts here at Lloyd's Head. As we come around, you can see there's lots of little cottages and stuff here. It's fairly populated along here, and those local authority houses there, I'm sure they've all been sold off. They have to be some of the best, with the best views that there is. So there's the pub there, the Black Swan. I don't recommend that pub. I found the owners to be very, very rude when we visited once. Long story, but you know, my advice is don't go there. Anyway, we've got the crossing here. We're back on that Severn Valley Railway, but we're not. It crosses straight through, so it shows how much that railway has actually disappeared. And I don't think they'd ever be able to relay the tracks. So we're coming up now, and we've got a junction here. Now, if you're carrying up that road, that will take you up to Broseley. Now we're coming down here, and we have got the Jackfield Tile Museum here, and we're on Church Road. So you can see the access there. Some beautiful tiles there. Some of those tiles that there. I mean, the tile works itself. They sold tiles to all over the world. I mean, there's tiles from Jackfield that are in subways, they're in Westminster Abbey and stuff like that. Just note that beautiful church on the left hand side. But you can see these warehouse style buildings here on the right hand side. So we now are going to take a right onto this footpath, and this brings us rightfully back on the exact route of the Severn Valley Railway. Now this area was home to one of the most severe landslips in the 1950s, which absolutely obliterated this area. But also, does everybody remember the funny wooden road that was here? So much money's been spent on reclaiming this land, and I think it's they've made a massive improvement here and stabilised it. And now we've got a decent section of path now, which is the Severn Valley Railway. Now, left you'll see coming up left is the Moores Craft Centre. Now that's a lovely little place to have a sort of mooch around. Lots of independent craft dealers and stuff in there. Really worth a real look. So we started getting back onto the uneven ground again now. This railway starts to get higher and higher and higher now. I don't know what this dog's doing. Look at that. But on the left hand side you can see some of the tile work buildings. They've been converted into residential dwellings. But interesting history here really with the tile works. So the Severn Valley, very, very muddy as you can see, and to be honest with you, you don't see a soul now until it is quite remote, this section of footpath, but it's actually climbing and climbing and climbing. You don't really realise. So you can see it's getting higher. It's terribly uneven. But so this was like I say, the Severn Valley Railway originally. In the grand scale of things, a really, really long railway really. And it's funny that they've used the section from Bridgnorth to Kidderminster to actually make a feature of it. So where did all of this lot go? Where's all the track that went for this? But if you carried on along here, you'll see the next station is Coalport. And Coalport actually had 2 railway stations originally. So you can see here, it looks like a vehicle's driven along here. So again, it's just made it really, really muddy. But actually the views across to the gorge to the left-hand side are quite spectacular, really. Really, really nice. You know, this mud is not great when you're cycling, I tell you. But we're carrying on, and the river is just down in the dip to the left of us. But if you wanted to, you could actually ride your bike along. There's a national cycle route now that actually takes you right off to Bridgnorth. You can ride that exact right route all the way to Bridgnorth, which is really good, isn't it? I kind of love this strange dip that's in the on the pathway here. But actually, do you know what? Underneath here are all of the sewage pipes, water mains, etc., all buried underneath the railway. So you actually think of these footpaths, they're actually dual purpose, most of them are, doing kind of 2 jobs. So you can see I'm getting a bit of a move on there. It's not too bad. It is fairly smooth along here. Not too many potholes. And you can just see coming into view the bridge. That's actually the bridge just to the railway station, which just runs underneath there. And that railway station itself is still there, and it is actually old railway carriages that are actually now sort of luxury holiday homes there, which is really nice. So we're coming around the corner now, and we're coming into what's called Prince Eddy picnic site. Now Prince Eddy was the original name for the bridge that later become the Coalport Bridge. Okay, so the picnic site is just here on the right hand side. It's a nice little spot to come. And this now brings us onto the other road that takes us, if you go right, that takes us up to Broseley. Now these stars are not great for cyclists, are they? So here we go, off the Severn Valley Railway, and we're going over Coalport Bridge now, this narrow one. And Coalport's had a couple of bridges over its time. It had originally a wooden one. But this is just where the canal ended and the Silkin Way started and the railway started. So the other railway was just under the bridge in front of us now. So as we come round this corner, you can see the start of the epic 14-mile Silkin Way, and you can actually see that in another one of our videos. Look left, you can see the start of the canal there. That's the start of the Shropshire Canal, which is, and why it came down here is because it was really important for shipping goods around the place. Because don't forget, you may not think it now, but actually the Severn was quite an important route for ferrying materials from different parts of the country or different parts of the world. Those 7 trawlers came up. So Brewery Inn on the left hand side, and we're heading now up the Silkin Way now. Now you see the finger post there on the right. If you head up there, bit of a walk up the hill, that'll take you to the Telford tree site. So this is the railway now that takes us to Wellington. It is the Silkin Way, the Coalport to Wellington line. And I tell you something, it is, when you think about it, it's actually a hell of a big climb up here. I mean, I feel sorry for the guys who had the steam engines or the firemen in the locomotive. They reckon they used so much coal just climbing this hill out. And don't forget, this hill keeps climbing and climbing and climbing until it gets to I'd say, aqueduct. That's a fair old way, isn't it? But great footpath. Now, what we're actually riding on top of now are the trunk sewers for South Telford. They're right underneath here. And when you walk in this route, you sometimes can get a sort of sweet smell of washing powder and sewage. That's a smell I actually like, but I don't think most people don't. But you can see we're on a bit of a embankment now. You can see how high we are and how much we're climbing. And there's quite a lot. There's no shortage of Silkin Way wheels up here, just to sort of give you a indication of where you are. So on the right hand side, that's sort of Great Hay up on the bank there, up the golf course, etc. So talking about Silkin Way wheels, there's one there. So we just flown right past that. We're coming right up this hill under some I just want to say that I am actually on an electric bike on this particular route. So here we go. We've got the Hay Incline plane here. You can see originally this bridge would have been a hell of a lot lower. The ground level would have been lower. But as I said, they've got big sewer pipes underneath here, so they were almost laid on the surface of the railway, so it shows you how deep they are underground. The fence, the palisade fence to the right hand side, that's the bottom end of the totally disused and unused part of Blists Hill. So we're coming up now. Now, the pathway suddenly goes up and you'll see a sort of staging area. Now this is where the 2 big pipes, so there's a big pipe coming in from Hohem I, a huge thing, and that splits off and goes down the bank to the left of us, but also the sewage pipes, they sort of carry on, and we're actually on top of those sewage pipes now, walking on top of them. It's just basically big box culverts really. So here you can see all the manhole covers now. Look at them all. So there's a lot of activity going on there. So we're actually on top of those concrete ring segments for the tunnel. So on the left hand side we can start to see Coalport Road there coming down off Legs Way, and just in sight now is the Blists Hill Tunnel. A lot of people have always said about Blists Hill Tunnel, saying, well, how do you get a train through it? You know, it's not very deep. But actually, as I said, you think you've got a box culvert that's sitting on the railway bed. You can actually see how deep that actually was. So imagine it goes down quite a bit. You know, you've only seen half of the arch. But I can remember years doing sponsored walks at school and this being pitch black for many, many years. So when they put electric into it and the lights, I think that was a really good thing. Now you can see there's a lot of tree felling going down here. This is because of the ash dieback. That unfortunately a lot of trees all over the country are suffering. So basically they're dying from the inside out, and it makes them very, very unstable. You can see one there, for instance. You can see the centre of that's rotted away. You still see the fence on the right, which is the Blists Hill fence, and coming into view in a minute, I don't know whether we can pick it up on the camera, we've got the Lee Dingle Plateway Bridge, which is a phenomenal structure, really, when you think about it, in terms of engineering. But it actually towers above. You can see the big bridge abutments now on the side. Be nice to see something done with that, really. Maybe put a footpath across it so you can actually walk across it. But coming up here again, the railway sat deep in this cutting, and you're only sort of seeing a small section of that wall, really. So this is Legs Way, this is. And we're heading north. We've still got the big culvert running down the road. You see one of the manholes just, and on the right hand side we have got the entrance, the main entrance to Blists Hill Museum coming up there. And I think mainly this Legs Way was built A, to hide you had the sewer pipes underneath, and B, to give Blists Hill Open Air Museum an entrance and access to the car park. So this is quite a wide bit of path now, but you can see the amount of trees that have been felled along here. But it's got to happen, hasn't it? But good section of footpath. Up on the bank, on the left-hand side, we've got St Michael's Church and graveyard there. You can see some of the big conifers that are there, but also there's a little orchard there as well, a community orchard, or I think it's called Bartlett Community Gardens there, which is a really nice place to sort of go and visit, especially in the summer. So the footpath now sort of goes off to the right here, then straight through, and this little area here was originally a park back in my day, with swings, slides and all sorts of bits and pieces in there. But actually the Shropshire Canal actually follows that hedge line over to the right hand side. But we're coming up, and this is the park. So this junction in the path, right takes us to Sutton Hill, and the left, which we're going to take, takes us back onto the Silkin Way. So we are still on the Silkin Way, and this is the bridge, the subway on Legs Way. So we come up the bank here now slightly. Going off right takes you back onto Legs Way, but we're actually going to cross Station Road now, and we all know those little industrial units on the left hand side now. So we are on the Silkin Way again. So this is a decent size footpath. I mean, I think this is the widest the Silkin Way has actually ever been, or anywhere in Telford. On the left hand side we can see Madeley Market Station there. All the front of it's fenced off. Look, I don't really like the idea of that. You know, it's a nice building. And another little housing estate there on the left hand side, and there was a big engineering works, a big green shed there originally. So we're coming up over the first bridge now, the bridge over Madeley High Street with its famous hump in it. On the right hand side is the Miners' Arms, or is it the Foresters' Arms? One or the other. So there we go, over the High Street, and then we're back down, and the next bridge is the bridge over Parkway. This bridge has been complete and utterly resurfaced and overhauled recently, so it's been closed, and there was a bit of an annoying diversion, but check out that beautiful tarmac path now. So we are back onto the Silkin Way. Look, here we are. St Mary's School there on the left hand side. That actually got burnt down to the ground in the 80s, and that was complete and utterly rebuilt. Tweedale is on the right hand side. Now, that pretty much most of Tweedale has been bought by a private developer, and it's nice to see it being rebuilt. This guy has seen us, and he's just talking in the middle of the path where everybody has to have to go around him. I've just had a word there, and they've got the runners have just go, yeah, thanks for that, mate. But anyway, we're coming up. So the playing field to St Mary's School is on the left, Tweedale is on the right, and the access to the post office as well. So this is the darkest section of the Silkin Way. All through the 80s this had no lights on, and It was always the thing, oh, you're going to get attacked along the Silkin Way, etc. On the right now is the Madeley Court pit mound, one of many that this cut its way through. They probably literally flattened this pit mound to run this railway through. But actually, if you look down in the dip on the right hand side, you can see part of the old bridge that used to run underneath. There is another bridge right under where we've just gone across, which run a lane right the way across, or a small mineral railway, if I remember rightly. But you know, this area of the woods here, quite dense woodland at times. There's a bit of a mine shaft on the left hand side, but the railway now, so we're still on the railway now. As I've always said, the railway now runs straight across the bridge, goes straight. We sort of go off to the right now, and the Ghost Bridge is just further up that road there. So we come down to the rails, we're back onto this track where we started, which is, we're still on Silkin Way. We can see the windmill and Courtworks Industrial Estate off to the right, and they still cast manhole covers and stuff like that like they used to down there. So it's still nice to see that sort of industry still thriving here. We're going over the Horsey built bridge here, over the railway to the power station, the disused now, and we have the bridge over the Queensway, under the Queensway, and if you go off to the right, that takes you to Brookside. Off sort of to the next right, that takes you to Aqueduct, and we carry on up the Silkin Way. So we will join back on where the railway line came across and join back in. But this actual section of the Silkin Way is absolutely lethal with the leaves, especially when they actually freeze. But you can see the EP in the dip down to the right hand side, and here we go, back on course, back on the old route of the railway line. So the left hand side, we have what we call Willow Bank, Gittins Drive, that kind of area there. And this sort of did that guy just have a sack truck? I didn't quite see what was on it, but anyway, we're up on the embankment now. We're crossing over the bridge, and on the right hand side is the Britannia pub. That's sadly been announced that it is closing. So we've got, this is still a good section of footpath, this is. So we're coming now where the Chapel Lane crosses, but this actually, where Chapel Lane crosses, which you'll see in a minute, is actually the official start of the Telford Town Park. So there we go, through the arches, and if you look left, you can see the old Shropshire Canal, the original aqueduct, which actually gave Aqueduct its name originally. So we're back here with the original A442 Pink Bridge. It truly is an awful design. You can see it's so busy, isn't it, up here? Everybody, you've got runners, you've got dog walkers, you've got bikes, all of that. So we're just going into the tunnel now. So looking at it this way, this would have been the portal into the tunnel. So we think originally it was a canal tunnel, but when they actually built the railway, they actually needed to level the ground up. So they actually built the ground up and then realised that it actually is unnecessary to have a tunnel. So they just took the top of it, stabilised the embankment, and that's exactly what they did. But you can see you've got this rich sandstone seam that runs along here, and all of this water is what drains naturally through that sandstone. As I've said, we've got Parkhill Nature Reserve, which is up on the bank on the left hand side, and we are just going to be coming into Stirchley and Dawley Station, just under the bridge ahead. Very busy with walkers today, look. You can take a right turning which will take you off to Stirchley Lane, but also onto Brookside. So here we have it, through the bridge we have Stirchley and Dawley Station on the left hand side. There also used to be an old coal yard on the right hand side, but actually it had a big shed. That actually used to be a goods yard, Stirchley, Dawley and Stirchley goods yard originally. Thanks for watching, guys, and hope to see you again on another Telford History by Bike.